Marcus Chen stared at his alarm clock, wondering if he'd ever sleep again after what happened in Afghanistan. 3 tours, 2 Purple Hearts, and 1 discharge that came with a prescription bottle he refused to open. Sleep was a luxury he'd lost somewhere between Kandahar and coming home to an empty apartment in Portland, Oregon. But this knock, it wasn't the usual drunk neighbor or package delivery. This was urgent, desperate. He grabbed the baseball bat he kept by the door and checked the peephole. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, alone, in the rain. Hey, before we continue, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Marcus threw open the door. What's wrong? Where are your parents? She looked up at him with eyes too old for her face. Brown hair plastered to her skull from the downpour. Shivering in a thin pink jacket that had seen better days. My mother said you're the only one who can save her life, she said, her voice steady despite the cold. What? Kid? I think you have the wrong. Marcus Chen, Apartment 4B, former Army Ranger. Medic. She recited it like she was reading from a script. My mother said you're the only one who can save her life. Please, we don't have much time. Marcus's blood went cold. Nobody knew he was a medic. He'd specifically left that off his lease, his job applications, everything. After what he'd seen, what he'd failed to do, he was done saving lives. How do you know my name? There's no time. She grabbed his hand with surprising strength. She's dying. Right now. Please. Every instinct screamed this was wrong. A setup. A trap. But Marcus looked into those desperate eyes and saw something he recognized. The look of someone watching their world collapse. He grabbed his old med kit from the closet. He'd told himself 100 times to throw it away. Tonight, he was grateful he hadn't. Show me. She led him 3 blocks through the rain to a condemned apartment building he'd passed 100 times. The kind of place the city kept threatening to demolish but never quite got around to. Chain-link fence torn open. Windows boarded up. A faded sign warned of asbestos and structural damage. In there? Marcus asked. She nodded and squeezed through a gap in the fence. Marcus followed, his bad knee screaming in protest. The girl moved with practiced ease, like she'd done this 1,000 times. Through the lobby with its shattered chandelier, up 3 flights of stairs with missing railings, down a hallway that smelled of mold and desperation. She stopped at apartment 307. In here. Please hurry. The door was already open. Marcus stepped inside, and the smell hit him. Blood, sweat, and something medicinal he couldn't quite place. A woman lay on a makeshift bed of blankets in the corner. Early 30s, pale as death, breathing shallow, and bleeding. A makeshift tourniquet wrapped around her left thigh, soaked through with blood. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her, training kicking in before thought could stop him. What happened? He demanded, checking her pulse. Thready, weak. She was going into hypovolemic shock. She cut herself, the girl said quietly. On accident. 3 days ago. She said we couldn't go to the hospital. 3 days. Jesus Christ. Marcus tore open his med kit. The wound had become infected badly. The edges were necrotic. She needed 4 antibiotics, fluids, and probably surgery. She needed a hospital. We have to call 911, he said, reaching for his phone. No! The woman's eyes snapped open. She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. No hospitals. No police. Please. Ma'am, you're dying. This infection. I know. Her voice was barely a whisper. But if they find us, if they know we're here, they'll take her. Do you understand? They'll take my daughter. Marcus looked at the little girl, then back at the mother. He saw it then, the bruises on her arms, carefully hidden by long sleeves. The fear in her eyes that had nothing to do with the infection. Who will take her? He asked softly. My ex-husband. He has connections, money, lawyers. She coughed, and blood flecked her lips. I ran. 6 months ago. We've been hiding. But if CPS gets involved, if there's any official record, he'll find us. and he'll make sure I never see her again. Or worse. Mom stopped eating, the girl said, so I could have more food. She gave me her blanket when it got cold. She got sick, and then she fell, and there was a broken bottle. Marcus's hands moved on autopilot, cleaning the wound, prepping antibiotics from his kit. But his mind was racing. He'd seen this before. Different country, different uniform, same impossible choice. In Kandahar, a local woman had come to their FOB, begging for help. Taliban had found out she'd been teaching girls to read. They'd beaten her husband to death. She needed protection, asylum, anything. But protocol said they couldn't get involved in local domestic issues. His CO had turned her away. 2 days later, they found her body in a ditch. Marcus had followed orders that day, done everything by the book, and he'd regretted it every day since. "What's your name?" he asked the woman. "Sarah. Sarah Mitchell." "Okay, Sarah. I'm going to be straight with you. This infection is septic. You need blood transfusions for antibiotics, surgical debridement. I can clean this wound, give you what oral antibiotics I have, but without hospital care." "How long?" she whispered. "Days. Maybe a week if you're lucky." She closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Then, can you watch over Emma? Just until my sister can get here? She's in Seattle. I've been trying to reach her, but my phone died and—" "Mom, no." Emma collapsed against her mother. "You can't die. You promised. You promised we'd be okay." Marcus sat back on his heels, staring at his blood-stained hands. Every rational part of his brain said call 911. Let the system handle it. It's not your problem. You tried to save someone before, and look how that turned out. But he looked at Emma, really looked at her. 7 years old, and she'd been watching her mother die for 3 days. Too scared to ask for help. Too scared of what might happen if she did. "There might be another way," he heard himself say. Sarah's eyes opened. "What?" "I have a friend, Jake Reeves. We served together. He runs an underground clinic for people who can't go to regular hospitals. Undocumented immigrants, people running from abusive situations, folks who fell through the cracks. It was technically illegal. Jake had lost his medical license after he'd been caught treating gang members without reporting gunshot wounds. But he'd told Marcus once, "I didn't become a doctor to decide who deserves to live. He's in Southeast Portland. I can call him." "But Sarah," Marcus looked her dead in the eye. "If I do this, you have to level with me. All of it. Because if I'm putting my neck out, I need to know what I'm dealing with." Sarah nodded weakly. "My ex-husband is Robert Mitchell. Wait, Robert Mitchell? The tech CEO. You know him?" Everyone in Portland knew him. Mitchell Technologies. Billionaire. Philanthropist. His face was on every tech blog, every charity gala. Man of the year 2 years running. "He's abusive," Sarah said flatly. "Physically, emotionally, to me." And he started looking at Emma differently. The way he'd watch her, touch her shoulder just a little too long. I knew what was coming. I'd seen that look before. Marcus's stomach turned to ice. "I took her and ran. But he has everyone in his pocket. Police, judges, social workers. I filed for divorce, tried to get a restraining order. Every lawyer I talked to suddenly became unavailable. Every court date got postponed. Then CPS showed up at my door, saying someone reported me as an unfit mother." "Let me guess," Marcus said. "His report." She nodded. "We disappeared that night, cleaned out my savings and ran. But money only lasts so long. We've been living here for 2 months. I got a job cleaning offices at night, paying cash. It was working. We were making it. And then—" She gestured weakly at her leg. Marcus pulled out his phone. Jake answered on the 3rd ring. "Marcus? It's 3 in the morning, man. I need your help. Woman, mid-30s, septic leg wound. Needs immediate treatment. Can't go to a hospital." A pause. "How bad?" "Without intervention? Days. Bring her in. Back entrance. 20 minutes." Getting Sarah down 3 flights of stairs and into Marcus's car was a nightmare. She passed out twice. Emma held her mother's hand the entire time, whispering, "Stay with me, Mom. Please stay with me." Jake's clinic was in a converted warehouse. The back entrance led to a surprisingly clean operating room. Jake, tall, black, with the steady hands of a surgeon and the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much, took one look at Sarah and started barking orders. "Get her on the table." "Emma, honey, you'll need to wait outside." "No." Emma grabbed her mother's hand. "I'm not leaving her." "Emma." Marcus knelt down. "I know you're scared, but Dr. Jake needs room to work. I'll stay with you. I promise the second anything changes, we'll know." She looked at him with those 2 old eyes. "You promise you won't let her die?" Marcus wanted to promise. God, he wanted to, but he'd learned the hard way that some promises you can't keep. "I promise I'll do everything I can." She finally nodded and let him lead her to the waiting room. A small space with mismatched chairs and outdated magazines. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Emma said, "She's going to die, isn't she? Jake's good at what he does. But she might die." Marcus couldn't lie to her. "Yeah, she might." Emma nodded like she'd expected that answer. "If she does, he'll get me, my father. He'll say I belong with him, and nobody will listen when I tell them what he's like." "What is he like, Emma?" She was quiet for a long moment. "He smiles a lot, in front of other people. Everyone thinks he's nice, but when we're alone, he's different. He gets angry about small things. He hurt my mom. A lot. And he..." She trailed off. "And he what?" "He'd come into my room at night, just to talk," he said. "But the way he looked at me, Mom says I'm too young to understand. But I'm not. I know what he wanted to do." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. He'd seen monsters wearing human faces before. He'd put bullets in some of them. But this was America, and men like Robert Mitchell didn't face bullets. They faced lawyers and lawsuits and usually walked away richer than before. "If your mom pulls through," he said carefully, "she's still going to need time to recover, and you'll both need somewhere safe to stay. That condemned building isn't going to cut it. We don't have anywhere else. You do now." Sarah survived the surgery. Barely. Jake came out 4 hours later, surgical scrubs soaked with sweat. "She's stable. But Marcus, she's got a long recovery ahead. And I'm talking months, not weeks. She'll need round-the-clock care, antibiotics, wound dressing changes. I'll handle it." "You'll..." Jake stared at him. "Man, you haven't practiced medicine in 2 years. You barely leave your apartment. And now you're gonna play home nurse to a woman you just met. You got a better idea?" He sighed. "You know what you're getting into? If her ex-husband is who she says he is." "I know." "Then you're crazier than I thought." Jake paused. "She can't be moved for at least 48 hours. After that, she's all yours. And Marcus, be careful. Men like Robert Mitchell don't let go of what they think belongs to them." 2 days later, Marcus moved Sarah and Emma into his apartment. It wasn't much, a 1-bedroom in an aging building in southeast Portland. But it had a deadbolt, a security chain, and most importantly, it wasn't in any system connected to Robert Mitchell. Sarah took Marcus's bedroom. He set up a cot in the living room. Emma slept on the couch, but most nights Marcus would wake up to find her curled up on the floor next to her mother's bed. The first week was rough. Sarah developed a fever. Marcus thought they'd lose her twice, but she was tougher than she looked. She fought, and slowly, impossibly, she started to improve. During the long nights, Sarah told Marcus everything. How she'd met Robert at a tech conference. How charming he'd been. How he'd slowly isolated her from friends and family. How the first time he hit her, he'd cried and apologized and sworn it would never happen again. How it happened again, and again, and again. "I should have left earlier," she whispered one night. "Should have protected Emma better." "You left," Marcus said. "That's what matters. You got her out." "Did I?" "We're homeless, Marcus. I'm dying in a stranger's bed. Some protection." "You're not dying. Not on my watch." She laughed weakly. Why are you doing this? You don't know us. Marcus thought about that woman in Kandahar, about following orders, about the choice he didn't make. Because someone has to, he said. Week 3, and Sarah was well enough to sit up and eat solid food. Emma had started to smile again. Small things, a joke Marcus would make, a cartoon on TV. But she was still jumpy. Every unexpected sound sent her running to her mother's side. Marcus was making coffee when his phone rang. A known number. Hello. Marcus Chen. A smooth voice. Professional. My name is David Carr. I'm an attorney representing Robert Mitchell. Marcus's blood went cold. How did you get this number? Mr. Mitchell is concerned about his wife and daughter. He simply wants to know they're safe. They're safe. I'm sure they are. However, Mr. Mitchell has custody rights, as does Mrs. Mitchell. This situation could be resolved simply if. Tell your client to lose this number. Mr. Chen, I strongly advise you not to interfere in a domestic matter. Harboring a woman who's violated a custody agreement. There is no custody agreement. They were never divorced. Semantics. The point is, Mr. Mitchell has resources. He will find his family. And when he does, anyone who aided in their concealment will face consequences. Legal consequences. Thanks for the warning, Marcus said and hung up. His hands were shaking. Sarah appeared in the doorway, leaning on a crutch. That was him, wasn't it? Or someone working for him? Yeah. He knows we're alive. He's going to come. Let him. Marcus, you don't understand what he's capable of. Sarah, I've faced down Taliban fighters with RPGs. I think I can handle one tech bro with a law degree. But even as he said it, Marcus knew he was in over his head. Robert Mitchell wasn't going to kick down his door with a gun. He'd use the system, the law, money and influence. He'd bury Marcus in paperwork and make it all look legal. The next attack came 3 days later. Marcus's landlord called, said there'd been complaints about noise, about suspicious activity. Said Marcus had 24 hours to vacate or face eviction. He'd lived there for 18 months without a single complaint. Then his bank called. His account had been frozen pending an investigation into suspicious transactions. What transactions? They couldn't say, but it would take 7 to 10 business days to resolve. His car got towed from a legal parking spot. When he went to the impound lot, they said there was a hold on it. Computer error, they said, would take a week to sort out. Everything was legal. Everything was justified. And all of it was coordinated. He's trying to flush us out, Sarah said that night. Make things so difficult you have no choice but to let us go. Not happening. Marcus, you're going to lose everything. Your home. Your money. He'll destroy your life. He can try. But privately, Marcus was terrified. He was a broke veteran with PTSD and a med kit. Robert Mitchell was a billionaire with unlimited resources. This wasn't a fight Marcus could win, unless he changed the rules. Marcus called Jake. I need a favor. A big one. How big? Need you to document everything. Sarah's injuries. The timeline. Emma's statement about the abuse. Everything that would hold up in court. Marcus, you can't go to the police. They're in his pocket. I'm not going to the police. I'm going to the press. Silence. Then, that's either brilliant or suicidal. Maybe both. It took 2 weeks to put together. Jake documented Sarah's injuries with clinical precision. Marcus recorded Emma's testimony. And yes, he made sure Sarah was present and Emma understood she didn't have to do this. But Emma looked into the camera and told her story with a clarity that broke Marcus's heart. Sarah wrote out a detailed timeline. Dates. Incidents. Hospital visits where she'd lied about how she got injured. Witnesses who'd seen but said nothing. And Marcus gathered everything he could on Robert Mitchell. Police reports that had been buried. Complaints from former employees that had been settled with NDAs. A pattern of abuse hidden behind money and lawyers. He sent the whole package to a journalist he'd met once. Keisha Washington with the Portland Tribune. She'd done an expose on veteran homelessness that had actually led to policy changes. She was tough, fair, and she didn't back down from powerful people. She called Marcus 2 days later. This is either the story of the year or a lawsuit waiting to happen. It's the truth. Truth is only worth something if I can prove it. You got proof. Medical records. Testimony. Documentation. From who? An unlicensed clinic and a 7-year-old? Marcus, I believe you. But my editor needs more. I need someone on the record. Someone credible who'll testify to Mitchell's character. I'm working on it. But Marcus wasn't sure where to start. The answer came from an unexpected place. Emma's school. Before they'd run, Emma had attended Portland Academy, an exclusive private school. Her teacher had been a woman named Patricia Hollis. Marcus found her on social media. He sent a careful message explaining who he was and that he was trying to help Emma Mitchell. She called him within an hour. "Is Emma safe?" she asked immediately. "Yes. Thank God." When she didn't come back to school, I asked questions. The administration said it was a family matter and I should drop it. But I saw the bruises, Mr. Chen, on Sarah when she'd pick Emma up. The way Emma would flinch at loud noises. I reported it to CPS 3 times. Nothing ever happened. Would you be willing to go on record? Tell your story to a journalist. A long pause. I have tenure. They can't fire me, but they can make my life hell. And Robert Mitchell donates millions to that school. I know what I'm asking, but Emma needs someone to stand up for her. Someone other than her mother and a broken-down vet she barely knows. Another pause. Then, send me the reporter's information. Patricia's testimony changed everything. Suddenly, Keisha had a credible witness. A teacher from an elite school, willing to go on record about suspected abuse and a failed system. She interviewed Jake off the record about his clinic, on the record as a medical expert. She tracked down 3 former Mitchell Technologies employees who'd signed NDAs but were willing to break them to talk about Robert's treatment of female staff. Pattern emerged. A powerful man who viewed people as possessions, who couldn't handle anyone leaving his control. The story ran on a Sunday. Tech Titan's dark secret. Abuse allegations rock Portland's elite. Marcus's phone exploded. So did social media. Robert Mitchell issued a statement calling it slanderous fiction from a disturbed ex-wife. His lawyers threatened to sue. But then more women came forward. Employees, business partners, even his college girlfriend. The story snowballed. And for the first time since this started, Marcus thought they might actually win. But Marcus had forgotten something important about cornered animals. They bite. The knock came at 2 a.m. Marcus was dozing on his cot when he heard it. Not loud. Not urgent. Just persistent. He checked the peephole. 2 men in suits. Portland PD badges. Marcus opened the door but kept the chain on. "Officers. Marcus Chen? We have a warrant for your arrest." His stomach dropped. For what? Kidnapping. Custodial interference. Practicing medicine without a license. The lead detective, a hard-faced woman in her 40s, held up the warrant. "You need to come with us." In the bedroom, Marcus heard Sarah gasp. "This is bullshit," he said. "Robert Mitchell put you up to this." "Sir, we're just executing a warrant. You can explain your side downtown." Marcus knew what this was. Robert's final play. Arrest him, separate Sarah and Emma from their only protection. By the time he made bail, Robert would have them. "I need to make a phone call." "You can do that at the station." "I need to make sure the woman in my apartment has someone to look after her daughter." The detective hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Marcus called Jake, explained quickly. Jake would come get Sarah and Emma, take them to the clinic, keep them safe. Then Marcus put his hands behind his back and let them cuff him. Marcus spent 18 hours in a holding cell. No phone call, no lawyer, just him and 4 walls. He'd been in worse places. At least nobody was shooting at him. But he kept thinking about Emma, about Sarah, about whether he'd just made things worse by fighting back. Finally, a public defender showed up. Young guy looked fresh out of law school. "Mr. Chen? I'm Aaron Wu. I've been assigned to your case. Did they tell you what this is really about?" "I read the Portland Tribune article." "I know." He lowered his voice. There's a lot of pressure to make this stick. But the charges are thin. Kidnapping requires intent to deprive custody, and there's no custody order. The medical license charge is shaky since you were providing emergency care. We can fight this. How long? Arraignment is Monday. If we're lucky, you'll be released on your own recognizance. And if we're not lucky, bail could be substantial. Marcus closed his eyes. Get me out of here, whatever it takes. But luck, for once, was on their side. The judge at Marcus's arraignment was a black woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Thornton. She'd seen the Tribune article, and she'd apparently seen Robert Mitchell's type before. "Mr. Carr," she said to Robert's lawyer, "are you seriously asking me to hold Mr. Chen on kidnapping charges when there is no custody order and substantial evidence that your client presents a danger to his own family? Your Honor, Mr. Chen had no right to interfere. Mr. Chen appears to have provided medical care to a dying woman and shelter to a child in danger. If you want to characterize that as kidnapping, you'll need to present a lot more evidence than you have here. Mr. Chen, you're released on your own recognizance." Next case. Marcus walked out of that courtroom a free man. Jake was waiting outside with Sarah and Emma. Emma ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. "I thought they were going to keep you forever." "Takes more than Robert Mitchell to keep me down," Marcus said, but his voice cracked. Sarah grabbed his hand. "Thank you for everything. It's not over yet. I know, but we're still standing. That's something." The final battle came 2 weeks later. Robert Mitchell filed for emergency custody. His lawyers presented a picture of Sarah as an unfit mother who'd endangered her child by running. They presented Marcus as an unstable veteran with PTSD who'd interfered in a family matter. But they had Keisha's article. They had Patricia's testimony. They had Jake's medical documentation. And they had Emma. The judge allowed her to speak. A 7-year-old girl, sitting in that big courtroom, telling her truth. "My dad hurt my mom," she said quietly. "I saw it, lots of times. And he scared me. The way he'd look at me. The way he'd touch me. Mom says I'm safe now. I believe her." She looked right at Robert Mitchell. He was in an expensive suit, hair perfect, looking every inch the concerned father. But Emma saw through it. "You're not a good person," she said. "You pretend to be. But you're not." Marcus watched Robert's mask slip for just a second. The rage in his eyes. The control freak seeing his possession slip away. Then it was back, the perfect smile, the concerned father act. But the judge had seen it too. The ruling came down 3 days later. Full custody to Sarah. Restraining order against Robert Mitchell. He was prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Sarah or Emma. He filed an appeal within hours. But for now they were safe. 6 months later, Sarah and Emma moved into their own apartment. Small but theirs. Sarah had gotten a job doing bookkeeping for Jake's clinic. Emma was enrolled in a new school, seeing a counselor, starting to be a kid again. Marcus helped them move in. As he was leaving, Sarah stopped him. "I never thanked you properly," she said. "You saved our lives. Literally. You saved yourselves. I just provided a place to do it." "Marcus Chen, you are a terrible liar." She hugged him. "You gave us a chance. That's all we needed. A chance." Emma hugged him next. "Are you still going to visit?" "Every week. Someone's got to make sure you're doing your homework." As Marcus walked back to his car, he thought about that woman in Kandahar. The one he couldn't save because he followed orders. He couldn't change that. But he'd made a different choice this time. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Robert Mitchell's company survived the scandal, but he stepped down as CEO. Last report said he moved to Silicon Valley, where apparently everyone has a short memory and deep pockets. Sarah and Emma are thriving. Emma wants to be a doctor when she grows up. She says she wants to help people the way Uncle Marcus and Uncle Jake helped her. As for Marcus, he started practicing again, volunteering at Jake's clinic, helping people who fall through the cracks, people the system forgets. Because he learned something through all this. Sometimes the rules are wrong. Sometimes following orders is the worst thing you can do. Sometimes the only moral choice is to break every rule that says you can't help. That knock at 2:47 a.m. changed his life. A little girl in the rain, delivering an impossible message. My mother said you're the only one who can save her life. Turns out they saved his too. If the story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more gripping tales. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.